In the world of true crime, we often look for the perfect crime. Usually, it doesn't exist. But for nearly 2 years in the suburbs of Dallas, Texas, one man came terrifyingly close. He didn't use a gun. He didn't use a knife. He didn't leave a trace of DNA. Instead, he exploited a loophole in the human condition, the assumption that when the elderly die, it is simply their time. By the time the vault was finally unsealed on this case, the police realized they weren't looking at a single tragedy. They were looking at one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. A man who hid 22 murders behind a stack of death certificates that all said the same thing: natural causes. Today, we open the archives on Billy Chemirmir, the man who almost got away with it. Billy Chemirmir didn't fit the profile of a monster. He was a healthcare worker, a man who knew the rhythms of the elderly. He knew that in Texas, if a person over 65 dies in their sleep, an autopsy is rarely required. His method was chillingly efficient. He would stalk his victims at local grocery stores, often Walmarts. He looked for the vulnerable. He looked for the sparkle of high-end jewelry. He would follow them home, wait for the right moment, and then he would pose as a maintenance worker or a medical assistant to gain entry. Once inside, he used a soft pillow to smother them. No struggle, no blood, no forensics. Within minutes, he would strip the body of its gold and vanish. When the staff found the victims the next morning, they saw what they expected to see: a peaceful passing in the night. Names like Catherine Sinclair, Phyllis Payne, and Phoebe Perry. For months, their families grieved, never once suspecting that a predator had been in the room. But while the families mourned, Billy was visiting pawn shops. This was the vault of his crimes. He was liquidating the history of these families before the bodies were even buried. But as he grew bolder, he grew sloppy. In 2018, the perfect crime hit a wall it didn't expect: Mary Bartle. Mary was 91 years old. When Chemirmir forced his way into her apartment and pressed a pillow over her face, she didn't just give up. She fought. She lost consciousness, and Chemirmir, thinking she was dead, stole her jewelry and left. Mary woke up, and Mary remembered the man in the green gloves. Mary's survival gave police a description. They began tracking a suspicious vehicle. They found Chemirmir at his apartment complex, standing by a dumpster. As police closed in, they saw him throw a red jewelry box into the trash. Inside was a name: Lou T. Harris. Officers rushed to Harris's home only to find her on the floor. She was still warm, but it was too late. The archives of his crimes began to unravel. Police went back through years of natural deaths at senior centers. They realized that every time Chemirmir was near, a natural death occurred and jewelry went missing. The scale was staggering: 22 victims. Chemirmir maintained his innocence, even as the evidence piled up. He was eventually sentenced to life without parole. But the story doesn't end in a courtroom. In September 2023, the man who smothered the defenseless met a violent end himself. He was killed by his cellmate, a man serving time for murder. For the families of the 22 victims, it wasn't the justice they imagined, but it was a final closure to the file. Billy Chemirmir's case reminds us that the most dangerous criminals don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they hide in plain sight, behind a smile and a uniform. What do you think? Should the senior living facilities have seen the pattern sooner? Let's discuss in the comments. This is the True Crime Vault Archives. Don't forget to subscribe and follow for our next deep dive into the files the world tried to